Well, today I'm supposed to talk about HDB, HDB issues, and we have a lot of talk about the CPF adequacy and all that. There are actually some parts of CPF I've not covered yet, but I shall come back later on what I think should be done to the CPF structure to revamp it. But now we touch on before we touch on HDB, I need to show you this. I have missed out this piece of information. This information was early 2023. Okay, it was actually somehow released by the Australian government under the Freedom of Information Act. It is very common law in many countries. Japan have it, United States have it, uh, United Kingdoms have it, right, and Australia have it. So it basically means that anyone who is interested in certain information, vital information, right, can actually ask the government to release information, right, of interest, of public interest, using this law. We do not have that in Singapore, right? Else, I will have an interest to ask the Ministry of Health to release the confidential contract they have signed with Pfizer or its representative in Singapore, right? Because it's important to look at some of the details which Pfizer's have put up. Previously, I've talked about one clause, one indemnity clause that says that it comes from, I think it comes from Canada, it comes from South Africa. Both places have this same clause that was written. It basically says that the government or the establishment, whichever government that bought these Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines, would have known that these vaccines do not have long-term data of safety and efficacy. And implicitly, it means that Pfizer make no guarantee of the safety and efficacy of their vaccine. Okay, and I wonder our government contract with Pfizer or its agent in Singapore, have that clause included as well. Right? It's important. If that is the case, it basically means no one should put the claim knowingly to say the vaccine is safe and effective. Because even Pfizer is not sure. And in fact, in the European Union when Pfizer sent his representative for the inquiry, his representative, a lady, I think, have explicitly said that no, Pfizer did not do any test on prevention of transmission at all. So, what effectiveness are you talking about when you do not do a test, a clinical trial in prevention of transmission? Okay, this is what we know right now. Right? A lot of people try to zigzag, say this, say that, but this is the fundamental. Very simple, straightforward. Yes or no? What happened? Okay, right? And why? Without such information, without such clinical tests, right? People, experts so-called, are making claims, unsubstantiated claims that the vaccine is safe and effective. No long-term data. This I already said before. There's no way you have a long-term data. But if you do not, even Pfizer is not confident about its efficacy and safety. What makes you make that claim? Right? It is about responsibility. Right? Now, this one, the biodistribution chart table. In Japan, as early as 2021, early 2021 and early 2022, Japanese some of the expert, real expert, right, independent expert, have requested, make a freedom of information request to the Japanese government to release certain information, right? And they have something similar, not like this, but a chart that draws a conclusion of the biodistribution. That means after injection on the mice, back then was the mice, right? How the vaccine, the mRNA and the lipid nanoparticles distribute, will go through different organs through the body. Where does it accumulate? Right? That one we have seen as early as 2021, late 2021 or early 2022. Now this piece of information from Australia was released in 2023, January, I think, right? I have quickly browsed through the data. It's quite very similar to the data which we saw from the Japanese government release document. Now, why this is important? There's another claim made by the expert and the establishment all around the world, not only Singapore, right? The injection, the vaccine, the mRNA vaccine, the Pfizer or Moderna, the injection stays at the injection site and it doesn't travel to other parts of the body, right? Why this is important, right? It is important because if it travels to other parts of the body organs, there might be a certain risk that it will trigger autoimmune system response to this vaccine in other organs, and it might hurt the organs. Okay, because it's spike protein, right? The concept of a vaccine, the mRNA vaccine is it creates a spike protein, then it triggers the immune system, our lymph node produce certain T cells, right? Go and respond and kill this spike protein, these cells. So imagine if this mRNA goes to other organs and created the spike proteins in your organ, in the different organs, and our body's immune system responded by sending the T cell go and destroy the cells that comes with that spike protein created by the mRNA. Right? What will happen? It will cause harm to the organs. That is very important. Right? That's the concept. So we now know this is it. Right? We already know that the spleen, which actually affects our sugar level, spleen, right? Diabetes are affected by the spleen, right? And a lot of parts of the organs are actually affected with a high concentration. The black part is actually the high concentration. At least 4 organs have high concentration of these lipid nanoparticles, this mRNA. Right? One is actually a gland, adrenal glands. What is this adrenal glands? It's actually on top of our gut, if I'm not wrong, or kidney, sorry. Right? It's supposed to actually regulate our immune system. Right? Then the other part is the liver. Okay. Okay, the adrenal glands may create high blood pressure if our immune system was not regulated. And ovaries for the females, we already saw that in the reports from Japanese data, right, released by the Japanese. And the other one is a spleen. Okay, of course, the whole blood and plasma. Plasma is a part of the red blood cell, right? Have a medium thing. And one interesting part is that actually the bone marrow, right, is not the highest. It's not in black, but it's in red. Right? These are the few organs that are possibly affected, so-called, potentially. Right? These are the data reflected by the data. Right? What are the long-term impact? I will leave this to the real expert to study. And the mechanics of harm, so-called potential harm. The mechanics of potential harm is due to this biodistribution. Instead of staying at the injection site, these mRNA go around your body, your organs, your blood, your bone marrow, your spleen, your liver, right? And create spike proteins there. And it triggers inflammation due to the responses from our body's immune system. What are the long-term impact? Nobody knows. There is a mechanics of harm potential. Okay, now, and something even more serious that comes about. Just 1 or 2 days ago, researchers from the Korean and the Japanese side. The Japanese are very strange people. When they find a problem, they really go deep down. They really drill into it. Right. So there are already previous studies of the impact of these lipid nanoparticles. Right. Why certain things form, like blood clot, right? Strange blood clot, the white blood clot, and all that. Right. People are puzzled. There are certain research which is not peer reviewed show that it is due to the structure, a strange structure created by these lipid nanoparticles, which people say is due to the graphite oxide, graphene oxides and all that, right? But these people are called the conspiracy theories. But this peer-reviewed research came out just 2 days ago, right, to show that actually these lipid nanoparticles, or this mRNA, which is keep in these lipid nanoparticles, LNP we call it, created strange structures that have never been seen before. Anything like that have been seen before in the past. And the researchers were actually shocked. Right? John Campbell actually have an explanation and make a video on it. Let's look at it.
A warm welcome to this talk. It's Friday the 6th of September. Now, I've heard about this phenomena years ago, of course, but only just got some evidence to support it, so we can only just report on it now. This is from peer-reviewed literature, and it's scientists based in Japan and South Korea. And what they've done is they've taken COVID vaccines, mostly Pfizer and Moderna, and cultured them, incubated them, to try and duplicate the conditions in the human body, and they've found nanostructures have developed. Now, I don't expect you're going to watch this video or be allowed to watch this video, but I'm going to do it anyway. And if by some chance a few of you actually get to see it, then that's brilliant. Now, here's the equipment that was actually used here. It's stereo microscopes. Now, basically all this means is you're looking at it with two eyes, therefore you get stereoscopic vision. And what happened was that initially they developed two-dimensional nanostructures, and then some became three-dimensional as well. And of course, you can see that with a stereoscopic microscope. Let's go and look at some now. That was the equipment that they were using. And of course, these days, you don't so much look down the microscope, it all goes on a screen, so you can take copies of it. Now, these are from the publication. These are some of the nanostructures that were observed in as I've said before, conditions that were designed to duplicate human cells in the human body.
A warm welcome to this talk. It's Friday the 6th of September. Now, I've heard about this phenomena. A warm welcome to this talk. So much look down the microscope at all from the COVID vaccine, which is then we'll look at the scale. So these are the sort of structures that they were finding. I mean, what the heck is that? You know, that is a structure that spontaneously sort of put itself together, a spontaneous assembly of this structure from the COVID vaccine cultures. Now the scale here, 10 micrometers. So that's so one micrometer would be the size of a sort of a bacterial cell. 7 micrometers would be the size of a red blood cell. So you can see these are nanostructures, but this is a very detailed looking structure that has spontaneously assembled itself here. really quite yeah, well, look at it. You know, that spontaneously assembled itself. What the heck is it? Now, of course, as always, we don't have. I won't be giving full answers to these questions. Read the paper for yourself. But this means the presence of these nanostructures needs to be explained by the manufacturers and by international authorizing agencies and national authorizing agencies around the world. This is a peer-reviewed publication, and I believe it gives questions to be answered. Even if it's only that this is a load of rubbish, then that still needs to be answered. Let's look at a couple more pictures before we look at the text. So these spiral ones seem to come up again spontaneously, just put themselves together. Spontaneous sort of another spiral there, another one there. Tell you what, I don't like the idea of these spontaneously forming in the cells of my body, if that is indeed the case. We don't know that, but if that's the case, I don't like the idea of it at all. Not at all. And 10 micrometers, that's actually pretty big, actually. If that's the scale there, 10 micrometers. So this whole thing is actually quite large, relatively speaking. And what is that? Spontaneously formed structure. Well, that one. Anyway, lots more examples in the paper. Do look at it for yourself and check it out. The paper is there and the pictures are all there. Now, as I say, I don't think many people are going to be able to watch this video because I'm not optimistic about it getting a wide distribution, shall we say. But never mind, we're going to do it anyway. So real-time self-assembly, these things are bolting themselves together, as it were, of stereo microscopically visible, so you can see them through the stereo microscope. Specimens of mRNA products, mainly from Pfizer and Moderna, a comprehensive longitudinal study. So constructions in incubated specimens of mRNA products is what these workers did. And our observations suggest the presence of some kind of nanotechnology in the COVID injectables. Now, I know this sounds pretty interesting material, and I'm being very, very, very careful not to go outside of what the article is saying, the peer-reviewed article is saying. And of course, I'll be giving you full references and everything for that. So I'm being very careful in this video not to go outside what it's saying. Observable real-time injuries at cellular level in the recipients of the safe and effective COVID-19 injectables are documented here for the first time, hence the fact that we're doing it. I think this paper just came out a few days ago, last week maybe. With the presentation of a comprehensive description and analysis of observed phenomena that need to be explained. The global administration of these often mandated products from late 2020 triggered a...
Now, this is only part of the video that Dr. John Campbell have put up in YouTube. I hope it's still there because it's peer reviewed. That means they have been confirmed by independent reviewers, other experts of the studies of what you have seen. Is actually quite scary, right? When I first saw such structures mentioned, I think about last year or even late 2022. Okay, I was shocked, right? But I do not believe it. I seriously do not believe. How can such thing form in our body, right? But it has been confirmed, double confirmed by these researchers, and I believe that it has to be explained. Maybe these are the things that are causing unknown blood clot, right, in many people, right, in different time after vaccination. We do not know, but the way the things looks like is quite horrible. I do not want such thing to be in my body, and thank Buddha, I didn't take that vaccine, right? I didn't take that vaccine, right? Now, and just today, I think Japan side have another press conference held by a professor, right, to talk about the harm of this mRNA, and they want answers, they want responsibility from the government and all that, right? But of course, the mainstream media is all quiet about that, right? You can only get such information from Telegram, but unfortunately, the boss of Telegram have been arrested by the French government. I do not know what is going on, but this is bad. But what's done cannot be undone. As I've said right from the start of this vaccination program, I'm careful not to take it in the first place because I believe that what you put inside your body cannot be extracted out later on. And we must be, just like what Akong say, LKY have said before to Gabriel Own, the one who was in charge of vaccination program for our children in the early 70s, late, uh, in the 70s and early 80s, that it must be 300% safe. Right? That is a kind of due diligence we should have for our people. Okay, back to the topic. I am showing this old news article, right? Old new article. Liu Tiger. I think this article came out in 2016 or 2017. There's no. I saw this article. This put up. Maybe someone up there knows that I'm going to talk about HDB. So, pop, it comes out again, right? Now, Liu Tiger is so-called the architect, really the architect of Singapore city planning, right? He has served the government in URA as a chief architect. And this is what he says after he retired many years later. Population of 10 million must be the target here. He didn't say planning parameters, whatever, but must be the target here. But later on, I think he changed his tone that says he was referring as a planning parameters. All right. But if you read the thing carefully, the whole article, what he was saying is 10 million population by 2100, the first at the end of the first century of this this millennium. That is what he was saying, right? He says that he was referring to a white paper released in 2013 that projected Singapore's population to hit 6.5 million to 6.9 million by 2030. We are now 6 million people, if I'm not wrong, and should be more than that by now, right? Dr. Liu suggested in a forum later that year, in 2013, that Singapore could look ahead to a population of 10 million people by 2100, right? And netizens, of course, criticized his comments with many worried Singapore's infrastructure cannot take it. It's natural. And that was actually my criticism back in 2011, right? Aggressive, unchecked population growth is the problem, the mother of all problems. Okay, the root cause of all problems, because our construction cannot keep up with it. I will come to that later when we talk about HDB. And here we have a supposedly respected Dr. Liu have said that. Okay, but I've shown that by the water consumption projection made by PUB, right? It seems that their projection, the planning parameter so-called, was aiming at 10 million population by 2065 instead of 2100. Right? Even more aggressive than what Dr. Liu was suggesting. Right? Wow, this is something new to me, very new to me. Right? And his proposal was based on the concept that in order to keep Singapore sustainable as a country, well, most likely he was talking about sustainability in terms of economic size, right? That we should have 10 million. He says that his idea of the population increasing from the current 5.6 million, that was I think in 2017, to 10 million is in less than 100 years was a low estimate of the growth rate. Well, he may be right, because now we have a potentially 10 million population by 2065 by the PUB projection of the consumption of water, right? It says that as long as your economy is booming and you create new jobs, you need new population. It's a weird kind of concept. Weird kind of concept. You only create jobs, right, when you overpopulate, so-called, right? If we do not have citizens that needs jobs, why should we be creating jobs? Just for us to take in more foreign talent, so to speak, right? And he brushed off aside of the infrastructure issue. He said, when asked about the issues facing rail operators as MRT, he said that when it came to urban issues in general, it was human to let things slide a little. What does it mean? Slide a little, right? The acid test of government is when you notice this happening, do you do something to address it, right? And he thinks that our government is doing that. It's not to slide that little. It's about adequacy, right? So this is actually the debate quite a number of years ago. Right? Then, after I watched this, saw this population projection, or so-called the target parameters, planning parameters, I saw PAP's Facebook site, IB Facebook site, put up this. It was questioning, right, Pritam Singh from Workers' Party, or flip-flopping, right, about HDB. This time is about HDB. Population is always connected to HDB, definitely. Because how can you have population growth when you do not build enough housing? It's a no-brainer. Like 衣食住行, right? You must have enough housing in order before you actually have population growth. Okay, so in this post, right, he tried to attack Workers' Party lah, Pritam Singh lah. He put a Pritam Singh face down there. He says that the title says, "Quick to take other people's credit, never once admit their own mistake." Sama-sama lah. PAP is also like that, right? Well, Dr. Chisuja have done a very good TikTok recently, the video, right? He was going through what SDP have proposed. Some of them actually I agree in part, right? In the past, when we was proposed, PAP's pattern is like that one. When we propose something is out of their norm, the first thing they do, they will attack. Say this no good, that no good, where to get the money, whatever it is. All right? Like the lately announced unemployment benefits. They don't call it unemployment benefits, just to make sure that it doesn't sound something similar to our proposal, but it's basically unemployment benefits. Right? Well, SDP proposed something similar to me, in the sense that 50% of the last drawn pay. But SDP went a bit aggressive. That says 18 months, while I actually suggested only 6 months. That's only the difference between us, right? So, but PAP came out of a more conservative thing. Wow, $6,000 for 6 months, right? That is very conservative. But but that is PAP. Always takes people's ideas and take people's credit, but never once admit their own mistake. It seems that sama. That's why I say PAP, IB also, well, try to attack people. Look into the mirror first, right? Okay, the attack goes this way. In 2019, Workers' Party recommended only 9,000 BTOs to be built a year. Okay, but in 2023, right, they criticized the government for not building ahead of demand. Right, even when PAP, I think HDB now is building about 21,000 or 22,000 HDB flats per year, still cannot cope with the demand. Right, so is they are good in pointing that such contradiction. There is no doubt Workers' Party got it wrong. I have to say this. I'm not citing anyone. I'm not citing whether Workers' Party or PAP. Workers' Party get it wrong. Neither did PAP get it right. I will explain later. Right? I explain later why this is so. Okay. Now, in this article, right, the so-called article, it says that the logic of Workers' Party is this, right? Back then, it says resident population growth. Resident means PRs plus citizen has been approximately 30,000 a year. I think it's more than that. Well, maybe less, maybe no, but never mind, right? Since 2010 and 2011, assuming an average household size of 3.3, I do not know how they got this average household size. Never mind. Right? This would mean that the around 9,000 or so new HDB units, right, are required annually. It sounds logical, right? But it's not. I will explain later. Right? Completions within the same time period have far exceeded the resident population because they were building about 17,000 to 18,000 back then, right, per year. Right? Then it says private vacancies have only started to inch down. So they are worried about private properties vacancies, right? But there are still around 12,000 private units. So I do not know why Workers' Party is worried about the private properties, but this is their logic. It says that if HDB build less, the private property sector will have more demand. So you will not have the supply glut, right? There will be no excess supply. To save the private properties, you build less HDB. Well, does it actually works or not? I explain later. This is actually a flawed argument, right? Completing will the HDB have a vacancy rate problem compounded by a still steady stream of 16,000 to 17,000 BTO units in the last few years. That was in 2017, all right, which will continue to increase supply up to 2022. So they were saying, oh, how come you're building so many BTOs and keep building, right? Even when the private property sector is in the slum. Then the problem comes. The major problem of this is not the major problem of projection, because nobody can do a good projection except PAP, but PAP didn't do a good projection. I will explain later. Right? It says BTO project should continue. That's what they say, which I disagree. BTO is the problem, right? But rather than creating too many new towns, planners would do well to consider a future, partly meeting demand from new family formation by selling balanced flat in mature estate acquired under the Universal Sale and Leaseback Scheme, or USB, right? This would help advance urban renewal in the mature estate where many Singaporeans desire to live, since these are nearer to the city center. So what is saying that, oh, there's a lease buyback scheme, right? Actually, are against the lease buyback, right? Right? Never mind. They say, okay, at the universal sales and lease buyback, right? Then you can cope with this partly demand of new family formation. Okay, what's wrong with this? I will just explain. The first part first. Source of demand for new HDB flats, whether it is BTO, whether it's built in advance, okay, comes from what? First, new citizens, new matured citizens, family units, okay, or new citizens that got the citizenship and start to get married and want to buy their home. This first. And new citizens, we are giving 20,000-30,000 per year out. Okay. The second demand comes from young citizen couples who want to form the family unit. Right. The third one is, of course, the downgraders. Those who have past their retirement, they want to downgrade, so to get some money out for their finance their retirement. Okay, downgraders, and of course the upgraders who sell their old flats and want to upgrade. Okay, these are the four sources, basic four sources. There might be other sources I do not know, but this is basically the major four sources. Now, when you use increase in resident population, which includes the PRs, right? Unfortunately, PRs can buy resale flat lah. Okay, buy resale flat is either downgraders or upgraders, right? That is already covered. Okay, so you cannot say that you just cannot say that because of new citizens alone, right? Increase in the citizens alone, then we cater for that numbers alone, because we still got youngsters who are born in Singapore or otherwise, right? Who have come to age to form their family unit, they want to get married. You still have these people, right? So the calculation by using 30,000 divided by 3.3 is actually gross underestimate of the demand. It's actually a no-brainer. It's actually a mistake to do such calculation. Right? A flawed reasoning. Right? That's why PAP, IBs even laugh at them. Right? Someone was telling me that the PAP MPs actually laugh at the Workers' Party when they brought this up in Parliament. Rightfully so. Because the context of data is wrong. I always talk about context of data. It's important. When you do data analysis, statistics, and try to use this for certain argument, like this one, you must understand the context of data. If you do not understand the context of data, right, you are going to make the wrong inference, wrong conclusion. Right? And that is what happened. Right? That's why the Workers' Party got it wrong in 2019. And did they get it right this time round to say that, they criticize PAP of not building enough HDB flats and all that? Half right. Now, the problem lies with the BTO system. Why? I believe these people don't do business on their own, whether it's PAP or Workers' Party, right? Especially in distribution business, like I do distribution of tea, right? So what's the problem when you try to do a timely supply, right, method? The Japanese, in their supply chain management, they are very proud to say on-time supply system. That means whenever you need the supply of materials, the materials will come on time. So they use statistics to do projection and all that, so on and so forth. But right, in construction, in housing, it is never so easy. Why? Because to construct a residential project, for example, the lead time is always 3 years, 2 to 3 years, 2 years at least. Depends on how big is the project, lah. 3 years, and during COVID time, it was dragged to 5 years, 4 to 5 years. So, in economics theory, when I was studying economics in NUS, we already know of such delayed impact, delayed supply, because demand is immediate, but the supply is actually delayed, right? So you can never provide an accurate matching of the supply and demand in properties. That's the concept. So properties will always, the market will always have a boom and bust cycle. So when you say about the private properties have this large supply not consumed and all that, it's part of the cycle, because the supply and demand doesn't match on time, because there's a lag in the supply. While I supply tea, for example, I cannot say that, oh, I do a BTO. What do you mean? Oh, you want 1 hour my tea, you must book first. Then later on, I go and order from Sri Lanka. Then after 2 months, then the shipment will come, I will supply to you. I cannot, I will lose all business. Right? It's, even 2 months lead time is not acceptable. So what do? I have to keep stock. And that's where distributors have their warehousing. They have to buy in advance and keep stock. And how much stock should I keep? I have to do my projection. I have to calculate, okay? Business is very simple. I have a big few clients, right? So I calculate roughly by their past data, right? Quarterly, how much do they consume or do they order, right? Then I do projection. Okay, if I'm going to order certain amount of stock with the size of the warehouse I have, right? So when should I order and how should I order? How much should I order? So that there will not be a disruption of supply, or else I will lose business. This is how distribution are processed. Of course, private developers of properties cannot do that. Pre-order, right? But how do you know that your order, your supply is matching the demand every year? As long as you have people bidding for BTO in excess of what you supply, that means you are not meeting the demand. As long as that happens, you can say all my BTOs have been taken up, so I meet my demand. No, that's not, because there are people who cannot get the BTO flats. After 1 year, 2 years of applying, they still cannot get. That means your supply is actually lagging behind. But lagging by how many? Nobody knows, because every year there will be incremental in demands and all that. It will all mix up. How do you know that your supply is meeting the demands? That is why BTO is the problem. Right? It is entirely impossible to meet demand, to have a real-time matching of supply and demand if you have a BTO system in housing. You have to build buffer stock. There's no other way. Just like I supplying my tea, I have to keep buffer stock. Right? But of course, for private developers, they cannot afford, because a huge project of 1,000 flats is very huge. The cash flow, they will face cash flow problem. But I ask you, will the government HDB face cash flow problem? They are the government. My goodness sake. For goodness sake. Right. But how much stock should they keep in buffer? 50% to 80% of 1 year's demand is okay, right? What's wrong? Because you will deal with the fluctuation, right? And in fact, to a certain extent, the government, the PAP government, can control the demand. How? Simple. You can give more new citizenship or less citizenship every year. Because only citizens can buy BTO, right? Buy new flats, right? Not BTO lah. If I become the Prime Minister or the Minister of National Development, I change it. It's actually a timely supply, a real-time matching of supply and demand. But I have no choice. I have to be building in excess and with buffer stock. So the contradiction is this. You cannot support the BTO system to continue when you want the government to build in excess. It's a contradiction itself. And that is the second contradiction in Workers' Party stance. And that is actually something that PAP didn't realize, that they're trying to do something that's incoherent. Okay? They should do away with the BTO system and do an active management of a buffer stock. I'm not saying to build excess buffer stock, but with a timely adjustment and projection, right? Projection models. It's all about data analysis and a statistical analysis. You can do projection to maintain a 50% to 80% of buffer stock. So whenever our youngsters want to get married, they do not need to wait for 3 years. They can get a flat immediately within months, 2 months, 3 months. Then go and make babies. And that's how we can increase our fertility rate. Right? Now, having said all this, I still do not believe that we should have 10 million people on this tiny little island. The max and max and max, right, is 6.5. Should be less than 7 million. In fact, in economics theory, the concept, the critical mass for a viable economy, we only need about 6 to 7 million people. We do not actually need 10 million people. So Liu Taike, I do not know why Liu Taike have this impression that for our economy to be sustainable, we need 10 million people. No, I don't think that is right. That is the right figure. Right? Critical mass means what? Now, the concept is this, in economics is this. When you have a critical mass of population, right, you have created internal demands, which keeps the economy growing. For example, in trade, trade is not international trade, internal trade. What do you mean by internal trade? Trade can mean services. You create a certain demand on services to serve the local population, right? F&B, for example, right? You have enough people, there will be a certain demand for food, for restaurants, for cafes, for hawker centers. That's internal economy, internal consumption. Now, if there is a fluctuation in the international economic cycle, with a 6 million to 7 million people, you can actually even out or withstand a certain impact of this international, the global economic cycle, so that not everyone will be hit badly. At least the hawker can still talk. At least those providing services like haircuts and other services, right, will still maintain a certain level of consumption. And that is the role of government, to maintain consumption by injecting liquidity, just like CDC voucher or GST voucher, whatever it is. injecting money or unemployment benefits. I have explained why unemployment benefits is necessary. It's not just about compassionate or whatever. It is not. It's a mechanism to actually even out economic cycles. Right? When there are a drop on demand, drop of work, jobs and all that, there will be create a drop in demand in local services and consumption. So by having unemployment benefits, so-called whatever you call it, you're injecting liquidity into the economy, it cushion out that impact on other services. That is the purpose of unemployment benefits. Right? Not just to buy votes. Okay? So when we talk about all these policies, PAP is quick to say welfare state, welfare state. No, it's not. It's a very practical, pragmatic system that we are advocating. But definitely not 1.5 years. Right? Half a year. Half a year. Because economic cycles goes in the quarterly. Normally, anything beyond 6 months is more than a technical recession. Then other means will come in. Right? Other means will come in. But on average, it should be less than half a year for certain short cycles, because the economic cycles become shorter and shorter right now. Okay? It's a very technical thing. Not many people really have their grasp. I just happen to understand that even well-educated engineers may not actually understand economic cycles, economic needs, right? And things like demand, supply chain management, a lot of people know, but how to apply to properties, how to apply to HDB. Private sectors, private developers may not have the financial means to maintain buffer stock, but HDB, as the government step boards with the government financial strength, has the means to provide such stability, such buffer stock, to create the buffer stock. Right? And I believe so. Do away with the BTOs is creating unnecessary asset fluctuation. Right? Ups and downs. You see, when you have prices up and down, cycles for things like consumption goods, it's okay, price can go up, price can go down, nobody will die from it. Of course, price goes up, people feel the pinch. But normally, if it's small ticket items, it's okay. But when you come to property, you will let the cycles to go up and down, or even up and up. It is a problem. Property goes up and you come down, it also creates a problem for those who have already paid high price for their properties. They will become the negative assets holder. So property needs that stability. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the construction cycle, right, that is what it cannot provide on its own. That is why the government has a role in it to provide the stability it needs by providing a buffer stock. And that is why, in my opinion, BTO is the problem. Not only a problem to our fertility rate, but also a problem to our property cycles. I hope this is not too technical for most people, but it is something that we have to address. It's something that we have to change. And now you know why HDB is always my pet topic. Because it is an important role for the government to manage stability in the property cycle and not to let it go off when property prices goes up. It's very difficult for it to come down. When it comes down, comes down at times. A lot of people commit suicide. Right? Thank you for watching. If you like my chat, please like, share, comment, right, and donate to the People's Power Party, because we need all the funds. I will put up a new QR code, because every 3 months I have to change the QR code, right? But the PayLah is still workable, I believe, right? We really need all the fund for the coming election, and I have said we need the reform for this government. If we do not, we will be swarmed by incoherent policies with unchecked population growth, right? Without a concurrent, effective policies to deal with the infrastructure. We cannot let this harm our future. Secure our future and vote for change. Thank you for watching. Good night.